Hey, what's up you guys? Welcome back to another video. As you guys know by now, my name is Greg, I'm 25 years old and I've been living in Sweden for the last 2.5 years, but I'm from England originally. But one thing that maybe not all of you will know about me is that before I lived in Sweden, there was one other occasion that I lived abroad, and today we're going to be getting into it. Yes, all the way back in 2014, I moved out to Cyprus for a short period of time. As you can imagine, they're two very different countries, very different sizes, very different scales, so I thought it could be fun to dig into some of the main differences that I noticed between my 3 months in Cyprus and the 2 years I've spent here in Sweden. I'm sure all of you guys know this already, that Cyprus is a small island nation in the south of Europe, just off the coast of Greece and Turkey, out in the Mediterranean Sea. What you maybe don't know about Cyprus though is that the island is divided into two halves, and the south side is mainly occupied by Greek residents and the north side by Turkish residents. Now all the way back in 2014, when I was in my second year of studies, I actually spent the whole of my summer out in Cyprus living and working. What was I doing, you ask? Well, I was actually working on a turtle conservation project. What does that mean, you ask? Well, Cyprus is actually one of the most important breeding grounds in the entire world for marine turtles, and there's two different types who tend to make their nests around Cyprus, the greens and the loggerheads. But the numbers of both of these marine turtle species are at risk for a number of different reasons, including natural predators and humans, of course. And that's why the project I went to work for was set up to help make sure that more of the babies survived, got back out to sea, and the numbers could replenish. It was a project that was really important to me because I'd found out about it myself while holidaying in Cyprus the year before. As soon as I got back to the UK, I knew I had to apply, get myself on board, and get myself out there. But fortunately, I wasn't the only one that was inspired, and there were 30 to 40 other volunteers who joined me that summer, walking up and down the beaches every single evening to make sure that the mothers got on shore, were able to lay their eggs safely, and then several weeks later, those eggs hatched and the turtles were able to make it back to the sea. It's a really cool project, and I have to level with you, it's one of the most awesome experiences I've ever had, especially when you get to hold one of those little baby turtles in your hand, which I did several times, and when you get to release them back into the sea of the evening, it's just absolutely magical. So if you're also inspired and you'd like to volunteer or donate something to the cause, I'll leave all of the links you need down in the description below. While I've got plenty more stories about that summer and loads of turtle pictures I could show you, today we're going to be digging into the differences between living in Cyprus and living here in Sweden. And the first thing that I have to bring up is the community culture. What do I mean? Well, as I mentioned, Cyprus is an incredibly small country. There's a population of about 300,000 people, so pretty much everybody knows everybody. And believe me, if you don't know everybody, it's quick to get to know them, because one thing I noticed straight away is as soon as you meet local people, they add you on Facebook. Yes, during the time I spent out in Cyprus on the turtle conservation project, I also dedicated some time to do some research for my university studies. Part of that meant that while I was in Cyprus, I organised a series of different interviews with local people. And oftentimes, even before I met these people for the first time, they would add me on Facebook. I actually asked someone once when I met them, how come you added me already before we even actually got to speak properly for the first time? And they said, it's just what we do here. It's the way that, everyone gets to know each other. It's that community vibe, island vibe. And as I'm sure you can imagine, that's not what it's like here in Sweden. Yes, here I could meet people several different times before I pluck up the courage to add them on Facebook, and I'd actually prefer they did it for me instead of having to do it the other way around. And I'm not entirely sure that that's an experience that's unique to Sweden either, because I'm pretty sure we would do the same in the UK. So as I said, maybe it's got something to do with the fact that Cyprus is an island nation. Let's be honest, there's only so many people, so you're probably connected to everyone somehow, so why not just cut out the middleman? The second big difference I've noticed between living in Cyprus and living in Sweden is that in Cyprus, there's a big push towards bringing lots of people together for social interaction. Yes, in Sweden, of course, as we've talked about on this channel before, fika is a big thing. You invite people over for dinner a lot, but you do that in small groups with 2, 3, maybe 4 friends. In Cyprus, the opposite is true. If you're having a party, why not just invite everyone in your phone book? And you don't have to know people particularly well to be invited either. The amount of people I only met 2 or 3 times who were already generous enough to say, look, I'm having a barbecue tonight, why don't you just come over? Again, as a general trend, I wouldn't expect to see that here in Sweden. It's much more likely that I just invite 1 or 2 friends over for dinner, I cook for them, and we have that social interaction together. Whereas in Cyprus, it's much more about bringing as many people together as possible. And the other big difference is that in Sweden, if I'm having people over, we're doing it at my house or their house. Whereas in Cyprus, you're probably going out to some restaurant and doing some massive meze plate together. And I'm sure my experiences are a little bit tainted because I was there in the summer, so everybody was about getting together, enjoying the weather, spending late nights in each other's company, but I just got the impression that it's a much more open and inclusive kind of society when it comes to hanging out. Whereas in the UK, we're a lot more similar to the way they do it here in Sweden. And as an extrovert, that was a difference that I was very open to and very welcoming of. And you guys, I've left the most obvious difference between living in Cyprus and living in Sweden until last, it's the climate and the weather. But before we dig too deep into that, it's important to say that there's a lot more climate variation in Cyprus than maybe you would give it credit for. The reason for that being there's a lot of different mountains, parts of the country are getting snow while other parts of the country are getting 25 degrees. So no, the difference I'm pointing out here isn't that it's super cold in Sweden and that it's super hot in Cyprus, because both can happen in both places. Now I guess the difference that I'm pointing out is that in Sweden, they're very well geared up for the harsh conditions they get in the winter, just like in Cyprus, they're very well geared up for the conditions they get in the summer, which are equally as harsh in a different way. Yes, both countries are incredibly well equipped for very, very different climates, and they've really learned to make the most of it. And you can tell that in the way that people spend their time and the activities that you would get invited to in both countries. They are very, very different. And what's my personal preference, you ask? Well, I'd be lying if I didn't say that I really enjoyed that in Cyprus I was able to make the most of the entire summer. Every single day was wall-to-wall sunshine, super hot, super humid. I could really get outside and enjoy the environment around me, and I knew what to dress for. Whereas here in Sweden, it's a lot less predictable. Just like in the UK, you never really know what you're supposed to dress for. Even when it says it's going to be 25 degrees, you pack a raincoat because you're not really convinced. So yes, two really fun places to live and two very different experiences that I would recommend to anybody. And with that being said, we've reached the end of this video comparing my experiences living in Sweden to my experiences living in Cyprus. If you'd like to hear more about my stories of working with turtles, and of course see loads more adorable turtle pictures, let me know in the comments below and maybe I'll do a video diving deeper into my experience on the project soon. I'd love to hear from you now though. What did you think? Do you recognise any of these differences? Have you ever lived in a different country apart from Sweden or your own? And how did it compare? Let me know in the comments section below. And then while you're down there, if you're not subscribed yet, I would really appreciate it if you could turn on that notification bell so you are the first one to know as soon as I put out a new video, and then you'll be ready for it. And as I say, super, super grateful for all of your support. I hope you're having an awesome day, whatever you're up to, and I will see you again very, very soon. Until then, thank you and goodbye.